Reflectors come in different types: open, air-cooled, adjustable, double-ended, lamp-specific. There are various shapes and sizes too: rectangular, square, parabolic, large and compact, each creating different growing footprints, from wide and dispersed to deep, intense, penetrating beams. Finally, there are various reflective materials, coatings, and their associated pros and cons. Woohoo! All this in a 101? Yes! There's lots to cover here, but notice how I'm avoiding the contentious which is best question. You know, one reason there are so many types of reflectors on the market is that growers' priorities, goals, and situations vary, so it's impossible to declare one reflector as the universal best. Accordingly, my aim here is to give you the basics that you'll need to make a smarter choice for your grow room, rather than presuming to tell you which reflector to buy. Let's start by asking a different, perhaps more unexpected question. What would a grow room look like with no reflectors at all? Now, bear with me here. I know this may sound weird. A naked high-pressure sodium or metal halide grow lamp emits radiation through 360 degrees, perpendicular to the arc tube. Many growing systems already exist that exploit the characteristics of high-intensity discharge lamps without reflectors. The ecosystem for this example houses two vertically mounted lamps in a central cool tube, and the plants grow all around it, effectively capturing all those precious photons as they radiate outward towards the cylindrical canopy. Very cool and highly space efficient, I might add. Most indoor growers, however, choose the more conventional method of growing plants sat on a tray or on the floor with grow lights hung above. Of course, without a reflector, a horizontally positioned HID grow lamp will send half of its emission toward the ceilings or walls, not down toward the plant canopy where it's needed. So, a good reflector effectively redirects all those otherwise stray ultraviolet, visible light and PAR photons produced from your light source towards your plants. Photons travel in a straight line until they hit a reflective surface, then they change direction. Light hitting a polished or mirrored surface obeys the general law of reflection. In contrast, dimpled surfaces diffuse a proportion of the light, sending it in multiple directions. Obviously, the reflector material should have the highest possible reflective index, commonly expressed as a percentage, while not changing or shifting the spectral distribution. For example, a 95% reflective surface will lose 5% of the initial power to heat. Initially, this is absorbed by the reflector material itself, but also ends up heating up your grow room, of course. 2 bounces roughly equal a 10% loss, and so on. So, as well as high reflectivity, the reflector should be designed to minimize the number of bounces. The greater the proportion of single bounces, the better. In the case of open reflectors, their shape should allow warm air to naturally flow upwards out of the reflector to be dealt with by your grow room's ventilation system. Closed, air-cooled reflectors obviously attempt to tackle this hot air issue head-on by ducting it away. So, now we've covered the basics, let's move on to what ultimately separates the reflector men from the boys. It really comes down to one word: uniformity. A good reflector creates an even footprint of light, or as close to even as possible, so that all plants receive near the same amount of energy. If a reflector creates a hot spot, that is an area of extreme light intensity and high heat, then that spot governs the distance that the reflector must be placed above the plants. This could force you to raise your lights higher than the theoretical optimal distance, reducing overall intensity over your growing area or necessitating the use of more grow lights. Hotspots can be reduced through diffusion, created through embossed or dimpled surfaces or painted and powder-coated reflective surfaces. Diffused light, with its photons traveling at many different angles, is able to penetrate the plant canopy more effectively than non-diffused light, where the majority of photons travel in the same or similar downwards direction. Reflectors can be classified as deep, medium, or wide in terms of the spread of light they produce. Now, closed air-cooled reflectors tend to create deep, penetrating beams of intense light. Often manufacturers design large fixtures to increase the effective footprint. There is a physical size limit, however, and this is arguably dictated by the angle that the light hits the glass cover. Now, if the angle is around 43 degrees or less, a lot of radiation will reflect off the glass rather than pass through it. The reflected radiation can become trapped and converted into heat. Furthermore, glass is known to absorb UV radiation. Remember that UV helps in the fight against molds and mildew, as well as promoting the production of essential oils in some grow crops. So having said all that, air-cooled reflectors come into their own when growing heat-sensitive crops in confined spaces. As far as open reflectors go, a long-standing favorite among growers is the Adjust-A-Wing series, which, as the name suggests, suggests is capable of being set up to deep, medium, or wide. Now, wide-angle reflectors can be placed closer to the plant canopy, whereas deep reflectors require more distance. Wide-angle reflectors work well in large installations where a matrix of multiple light footprints are carefully arranged to overlap. Smaller reflectors are preferable when used to supplement natural light as they create smaller shadows. Finally, let's touch on the reflective materials themselves. At the bottom end, we have plain oxidized aluminum offering 70 to 72% reflectivity. Anodized aluminum reflectors commonly range between 83 to 87%, and in cases where the anodizing quality is low, the reflective surface may deteriorate rather quickly. PVD, physical vapor deposition coated aluminums, is the common name for a cutting-edge range of highly specialized ultra-reflective aluminum products, and boasts reflective indexes from 95 to 97% and even higher. PVD coating provides a formidable shield against degradation. Don't get lazy though. Reflectors must be cleaned regularly as they attract dust and dirt, and never use a sulfur burner when your lights are on as it will kill your reflectivity overnight. Mirrored reflectors tend to have a shorter lifespan than diffused reflectors. Whew, okay, how did you find that? A little dense? Did I give you more questions than answers? If so, hit me up in the comments, and if you're hungry for a Reflectors 102, then just let me know. The best thing you can do is subscribe. It's free, and it pleases me deeply, as I've had a lot of fun saying that word this video series. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and all that jazz too. Just search for Everest F. As always, thanks for watching. This is Everest, bouncing once, hitting that plant canopy, and creating boundless joy in the process.